Jackson with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In Podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I am Brent Jackson.
Brent, I haven't seen you in a few weeks, right?
We've been absent for a while now.
Where were you?
I was in Florida, tennis camp.
Your kids are at tennis camp?
Tennis camp.
Both kids?
No, she did art camp, little girl. So little guy, this was my schedule for last week. So 7 to 8, private lesson, 8 to 10, stroke play, 10 to 11 was private lesson, 11 to 1 was lunch, 1 to 3 match play, 4 to 5, or 3 to 4 was fitness. So in between there, from 8 to 10:30, every day I went to visit a client. One day I went to South Beach. We have a closing in Edgewater. Right. I went to Lauderdale by the Sea. We sold a $2 million place. He has a $2 million house in Arlington we're going to sell. I went to Boca Raton. We have a $3 million house in Old Town that we're going to sell, but they have a $3 million place down there. We closed on a $4 million house in Delray. I visited that client. And then Friday I went up to West Palm Beach. That guy has a $3 million house in DuPont Circle. So I was all over South Florida.
You're doing Florida stuff. So are you licensed in Florida now? Or
No.
No. So you're doing referral stuff down there?
Doing referral stuff down there, and it's like jack of all trades, master of none. I'm a master here in Washington, D.C., downtown D.C., new construction. Mm-hmm. So we have good feet on the street with Sotheby's International Realty. Any company has good agents down there. But and again, down there, it's not one agent across the board. If I have somebody in West Palm Beach, somebody in Boca, someone in Delray, someone in Miami Beach.
Nice. Even
like Miami Beach, we've had Jonathan Garcia on. I give him all the South Beach stuff. He actually is the agent that is closing on our place in Edgewater.
Great.
So that was my trip last week. Next week, by the time this drops, we will be at Wimbledon.
Awesome, man.
So tennis family.
It's a great summer.
How about you?
Just dropped some kids off at sleepaway camp, and right now I just have 3 weeks at home with my girlfriend with no kids, and it's like very peaceful.
So they're 3 weeks and
3 weeks sleepaway camp.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
No visitation.
I mean, not unless we get a call or something. I don't know. So
do they come back mature adults?
No. They come back just as silly as ever, believe me. All right. On to our guest for today. Today's guest is Phil Ruggiero. Good. All right. Phil is with Engel and Volkers here in DC. Phil, I've known Phil and your uncle. Did you start Greenline Realty with your uncle, or was he there first?
No, he started Urban Land Company in 2002, and I joined him in 2004. So
got it.
Greenline Real Estate was a couple after that for me.
Well, let's go back to I want to just talk about because your uncle, I've been in the business a while, as we all know. Mm-hmm. That's a name, the Urban Land Company. Now that you said that, it's that's a name that we all know so well if you've been in the business a long time. A lot of new construction in downtown DC, kind of paving the way through some of these locations that were sort of becoming more and more popular in the early 2000s, right?
Sure. Yeah. I started with him in 2004, and it was just him at that time, him and his wife Trish that ran everything. There was nobody else there, and for years there wasn't anybody else other than me. And they named me the director of marketing 2 years out of school, and essentially my job was to answer the phone. Urban Land Company, this is Phil. Urban Land Company, this is Phil. Before there was tons of web traffic, much more telephone based. Did all the showings, did all the open houses, Thursday open houses every week, and we worked in transitional neighborhoods, gentrifying neighborhoods with developers that were doing small stuff, 2 to 8 units a lot of times, mostly conversions.
Yep.
So big part of that was always, for me, I mean, I went to GW, but I just didn't step foot in most of these neighborhoods before these listings came on. So a lot of it was learning, the history of those neighborhoods, learning the appeal of those neighborhoods to new buyers, and trying to, bridge that in a responsible way. And it was great. I learned a lot. I mean, we just tons and tons of transactions. None of them were under my MLS ID at the time, but I was learning a lot from Gerard and Trish for sure.
Where are you from originally?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island?
Yep.
So what brought you down to DC?
I coming out of high school, I applied to GW and American. I got into both, and I went to BC for 1 year, but I didn't like it as much, so I took a year off, and then I applied back to GW, and I came down here and I interned on the Hill for a bit. And while I was while I was in that, finishing out school and everything, Gerard had his brokerage kind of just building. He was with Pardo before that. And when I graduated, he invited me to come, and I took 1 year to say yes. But when I came in 2004, the market was booming, and there was a lot of opportunity. So it seemed like all upside, and certainly something I was interested in. My dad was in real estate in Rhode Island before. He actually got Gerard involved in real estate in Rhode Island, which was kind of the connection for us. So that was easy. We had a lot of fun with it.
So you started in 2004. 2004 was right in that was like the middle of that boom cycle when there were a lot of new construction condos that was the hottest thing. You were doing a lot of sales off pieces of paper, basically floor
Totally.
plans. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. The big one that I remember just as far as numbers wise is that I think it was 04, but it might have been early 05, when we launched the pre-construction sales of the Floridian.
Mm-hmm.
We had a line from what is now the front door. Well, he bought an office immediately adjacent to the property to the right.
I remember this.
I remember that office.
Yep, and that's where we worked, and then Katie Group, bought the adjoining land, and we had a good relationship with the car wash over there. All that is Whole Foods now, and the grand opening day there was a line from that purple house up, past, essentially up, toward Barry Street, all the way up.
Yeah.
Construction barriers. We sold on paper 55 units that day. Who's next? Come in, look at the sales board. I'll take that one. Paperwork back there.
Wild.
And then have people going out the back door. As in, financing was on the second floor, out the back door. Next, who's next? It was something else.
So 55 units. How big is that building?
It was, if I recall, 118. So just that one day, and then it went. We sold a couple more after that. That building had a lot of challenges with construction delays, as you remember, and I don't think most of those 55 actually got to settlement because there was significant financial issues after there was delays. But as far as the experience of that was something else. That's something that I don't think we'll see again. I also don't think it's healthy, but that was unique.
Well, so I just want to say something. You're the guest, but this just reminds me of same time period. We had 2 condo projects in Columbia Heights just up the road from there. One was on, I think, Fairmont Street, and another one was on Chapin Street. Mm-hmm. And it was the same kind of thing. People, I don't even know. I don't know how we managed the crowds, so to speak.
Yeah.
We had 3 of us there. We had the contracts. We were just taking down names.
Yeah.
And okay, you got this one. You got this one.
Yeah.
And
you got your checklist. You got your deposit check. Okay, lender letter, perfect. Go over here, and then you don't have that yet. Talk to the lender in this other room over here. They've got an internet connection. They can get you qualified. Come back. It was something else.
Yeah,
Wild West.
Yep.
We did that at. I remember Hoffman had the building Northern Exchange at 1401 R Street, and I think we waited overnight. We had squatters or whatever you call them. But they waited. We had the first 5 spots in line. We were able to go through and kind of
line holders there.
Line holders, that's what it is. I don't know. We
Squatters are different over real.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, so we got the first 5 units in there. So I remember Michelle Giannini, who was running the show there. You'd go in and exactly what you guys said. She would write your name down, but there you would come back a different day. It's your this appointment. This is your unit. You're coming back 2 days later to actually write the contract in front of her.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. These are all builders' contracts. people had agents, but plenty of people didn't. It was very, very interesting. And you could tell it was unique, and it was, I'll use the phrase not sustainable, but it's just an odd peak.
So you guys had a team of agents working the building, correct?
So at that time, it was just really Gerard doing essentially. Acquisition, developer relations, and that stuff. Trish managing operations, his wife, and then me doing just about every single showing at every hour of the day, and that stuff. And we had a handful of agents that would help out when there was a big event or when there was an open house, but they were not otherwise full time, and they weren't selling anything other than those products. And I didn't sell anything other than those products. I sold 1 or 2 based off of friends those first 3 years. Everything else was just listings coming in.
So, okay, so those 3 years, 2004 to 2007, when things started to change, you guys were just all new condo projects all over that whole area. Then, so when things started to shift, how did your company pivot in order to sort of weather that storm? I mean, you didn't shut down like some places, or and you didn't jump ship at that point to go to a resale broker, did you?
Well, no, at that point, yeah, I mean, things were getting pinched at the brokerage, given because at that particular time there was more places under contract than there were places that would deliver in the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
That type of thing. So it was challenging, and then there was a lot of it was trying to struggle to keep people in contract when the market was changing. So there wasn't really enough to go around, and I moved on amicably. But I had to try to build my own business. At that point, people were starting to trust me. Oh, you're a real estate agent, right? Yeah, but I really only sell this product. So I moved on to Long & Foster from at that point in 2007 and worked out of Friendship Heights office. I picked Long & Foster just because at the time, I mean, I really liked the small boutique brokerage, but there wasn't anybody else that I identified with. And I thought that Long & Foster at the time was just a generic, accessible, name that was, no harm, no foul, but wasn't necessarily a value proposition. It was just like, where can I go that'll allow me to be myself without the brokerage getting in the way, and that's what I decided to do then.
So going back just a little bit, when you were with Urban Land, like how did you guys cultivate these relationships with the developers? Because a 100 plus unit building is big.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a couple other like smaller boutique buildings. Like, are those your contacts, your uncle's contacts, or someone?
Yeah, none of them were mine. Coming into it initially. Yeah, Gerard is a great networker and has always been very investment minded and doesn't hold any punches, tell people what it is. He's not a salesman as much as he is just an honest broker with that stuff. But but we had very diverse group of clients from frankly all over the world. I mean, most of our clients were foreign born, trying to either getting into the industry or on their second or third project. And Gerard was a great conduit for giving them contacts with commercial financing and lending and mezzanine financing and all this other stuff that these people used to develop their business, and over time, got more accustomed to on themselves. I mean, a lot of it was referral from one person to another. In that sense, I got to know all these folks, but the primary contact and generation of the business was Gerard and his contacts through that. And then people seeing our success. Obviously, you sold something on this block when nothing within a half mile has sold anywhere near that.
Right.
Yeah.
I use the phrase transitional neighborhoods, and obviously that these days is more referred to as gentrifying, but it was. The zoning laws were all much more favorable than it seemed the commercial interest was there. So a big part of what we were doing is driving, consumer interest towards neighborhoods where there was greater value. And there's challenges in any neighborhood, but be able to have access to the housing market and reasonable price points and appreciation over time. Where's the nearest coffee shop was like point one on the on the bullet points, just trying to help people understand what these neighborhoods are likely to do over time. And every single one of those neighborhoods now, I mean, is well established. Certainly, much more on parity with the real estate markets. Back then, if you went beyond a certain point or a couple blocks beyond, real estate values, tapered off significantly. That's leveled significantly, and we felt like that we were a pretty big part of that. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how many units, but certainly hundreds and hundreds of units in different buildings all across the city, but mostly in underserved and undervalued neighborhoods.
Yeah, Urban Land Company had actually really great brand recognition in terms of, I think that's what kind of drove the business a lot, is just that, like, oh, you guys sold this and you guys are in this location. And there really, it was a smaller playing field also back then.
Yep, for sure. And also, just, the name and the branding. I'm a big brand guy, I love marketing, and Urban Land is, says it right up. It's like, this is what we're doing. We're selling land in urban settings. It's not like, oh, floral, or country estates. I mean, we're selling urban land. It's like I love those billboards. We buy ugly houses, right? Anybody that calls that number has admitted that they got an ugly house, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like urban land. What, you wish there was a bigger yard? No. This is downtown.
Fair enough.
So when you transition to Long & Foster, like, you're competing with your uncle? Right, because are you still trying to go after some of that new development business?
In fairness, no, I wasn't competing with him. I mean, there were a couple clients that I had that we had similar spheres or had shared in the past, but really it was just mostly me just trying to build a traditional brokerage of listing stuff and buyers. I've always been listing heavy, but I used my experience with new construction to essentially what I've always done is just I see a construction site in a dumpster, I walk in with a hard hat on and a clipboard and start asking questions. And I'm super comfortable then doing that. Was involved in tons of construction sites. So I can walk in a construction site and at this point, maybe it's not as surprising, but then at the age of 25, I could walk in a construction site and know how many more weeks they have until they're complete and just have a good sense of it. So I would reach out directly to property owners and say, hey, I see you got a place on X street and it looks great. If you switch a couple doors around, move the door frame over, you can get a primary master suite there. I think that'll add some value. Can we talk? And that's really what I did for that initial part of my, my own career.
So you're cold calling these people, essentially.
Cold walking in calling and, just asking questions. If someone's in there, the granite guys dropping stuff off, I say, awesome, I'm a real estate agent. Who hired you for this? Oh, John. Okay, cool. Good, John. Walk out, look at the building permit, see if John's on there. If he's not, I call the architect. Yeah, I drove by the street. John just had the granite guys put some stuff in. I can't find John's telephone number. Give me a ring. Not everybody gave me the time of day on that stuff, but
that's impressive though.
But it's like if you just keep pulling the string, eventually the sweater comes undone. It's like just always ask one more question.
I don't do this as much of this stuff anymore, but I definitely have done my share of I will drive by something and see what's going on, look at the permits, just waltz in. Really,
people don't. That's the thing I always find is hilarious about the city. People don't stop you if you walk into a house and you're wearing a hard hat and a clipboard. There's
city
no
inspector,
way.
Here we go.
I don't.
Or even guys like us in our suits. It's like we're realtors. Clearly, we must be something.
Well, I'm not going to be the one that tells this guy he can't come in. So that's part of being a white guy with a suit. Or a hard hat. It's you get perceived to be a person of authority, whether or not you are it, or whether, in my case, you had any right to be there whatsoever. But
so the message to the listeners out there is put a hard hat in your trunk because you never know when you're going to stop by.
I have a hard hat in my trunk. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
On the way over here, and once you get more seasoned in the industry, like on my way over here, I drove by a construction site and I know the lead contractor and the architect. So I pinged them both, like, hey, what's going on here? And it's like, oh, it's a boutique condo. This is what's going on. Prices, floor plans. So, is it a project we might be able to get? Maybe, but it's just knowing those connections as you get seasoned in your business.
It's engagement. It's asking questions, adding value, and you can do that long before you're ever asked.
Right.
That's the thing. People think I'm going to wait till someone wants to hear my advice. I give it, and if someone's interested, they ask back. I've always tried to use my business development along the lines of add value, point out the value you've added, and then ask for the business. Don't ask for the business first. Add the value first. Stop by the construction site 5 or 6 times. Say, if you cut this stair tread back one bit, you get bigger head height. I'll take a picture of myself hitting my head. Little small things like that just show he might have done this once or twice, and he's got a good point of view. So.
That's great advice too, because I know a lot of agents, and again, the more seasoned you get, I guess the more greedy you get with your expertise. And a lot of agents won't give that expertise until they get a signed listing agreement. It's like, I'm not going to tell you this is a good floor plan or shave back the steps or whatever until you have something signed with me, because I want to give you my expertise.
And it makes sense. I've given, there's been a large handful of people that I've given tons of great advice to and said, awesome, thanks. And then I see a sign go up to somebody else and I get a text message. But overall, on balance, it's you gotta sow the crop so you can harvest. So that's always kind of been how I've looked at that stuff. And advice is cheap, and I love driving around at new places. And these days with social media, whether or not it's my listing or not, to say I'm in a house looking at a roof deck and here's my feedback. Yeah. Who owns the house? I don't know, but they let me in. It's it still adds value and helps my brand.
So you've been really good at Long & Foster. Like, at what point did you decide you're going to stop and open up your own shop?
2012 is when we made the move, and I had come to know and a lot of great colleagues that I appreciated and learned a lot from at Long & Foster. That office, I had everybody from Mark Fleischer to Loic Pritchard and Kelly were all in that office, and I learned a lot from there. But at that point, it was clear to me that Long & Foster wasn't a brand that I identified with. It's a great brand, but just not what I wanted to do. And I'm Italian. There's all types of single shop owners in my family going back, and just the concept of having my own place where I can go out in the morning, sweep the sidewalk, go in, put the open sign out, really meant a lot to me and resonated. And I had a great colleague there in Tom Spear, who's our broker now and my business partner in Greenline. And I just found him to be 100% trustworthy, 100% honest. He was very yin to my yang. He's an accountant, and I'm not. And we work great together. And I approached him, took him out to lunch at on Park Road at the Pho restaurant over there, and pitched him on the idea. Let's do this. And he was intrigued, which I was flattered by. And we talked about it and decided to form Greenline Real Estate.
And so Greenline Real Estate, were you trying to get back into the new condo product market with that? And
so at that point, for sure, it was my, I would say, niche developed over time, because I had the extensive experience, and I had at that point, I guess, 5 years of developing my own clients and maturing a couple others and people along the way. So I had pretty steady book of business, mostly new construction stuff at that point. Still relatively very few buyers, and even to this day, I do more listings than buyers. But at that point, it felt like I had something good to go with, and I'm just very, very interested in design when it comes to marketing and presentation. And I think we did a great job with Greenline. Not just establishing a brokerage, but doing a full suite of marketing, constant stuff on social media at that point, and otherwise, and really had a nice clean and crisp look. And I wanted our own spot. And Tom let me to be essentially, front of the house, and he was back of the house.
Mhm.
So we worked with designers to do our logo and design our space. We built out our space on Georgia Avenue, and it was great. We had a lot of fun. We did a good job kind of recruiting mostly new agents from the start, and frankly, really all the way through. And we're able to kind of take them up to the point when, for better or worse, I'll call it worse, they moved on to other brokerages and did other things. I wish they stayed, but we did well. We had a good name for ourselves. We always kept the interest of our clients in the communities was big. We did tons of neighborhood festivals and farmers markets and fundraisers, and just really tried to focus on community and get people to identify us with where they lived. Yeah.
So you're an early adapter of social media. I know it seems like it's just getting bigger and bigger by the day, but this is going back into I guess 10 years plus. You're doing social media, because I watched some of your videos and they're very impressive. Like going into the neighborhoods. These are videos on Petworth, U Street. I love the one in Shaw. They're like 5 minutes, but it's very professional. It looks like one of those like HGTV or what's like the PBS one that they do? I forgot.
Yeah, I know.
Like this neighborhood or whatnot.
Yeah,
Like
WETA actually put my
that's
Shaw video on at one point. I was pumped. We had a party with everybody.
Right.
Came over with beers, watching.
Had a watching party.
Public
Right.
television for a 5-minute video. No, it was great. Yeah, no, I mean, production quality really matters in this stuff. I mean, the thing is that's interesting about production quality is that people watch commercials and TV all day long, and they never produce any content. So they have a BS meter that's very good, right? Unless the cuts are crisp, even an amateur can recognize it. So I knew that was important, and I wanted to create something that showed that I understood the aesthetic value of storytelling, not just a script. So I hired a videographer and worked with different people, and took a lot of time in it. I mean, honestly, I would still be doing them now if it didn't take me so much editorial time. If you watch those videos, and I invite you to look at them. I mean, I interview a great group of people, diverse people all over the place, but really tried to focus on the narrative that I think met people where they were, right? You could have someone that grew up in Shaw for 40 years, look at that video and say, all right, my point of view is respected. You can get someone that just moved there 3 years ago because it's affordable and cheaper than DuPont,
Sure.
and still have their view respected on it. And that was really important to me. The authenticity of the neighborhood and being real was the key to the lock that I wanted. In other words, I could communicate with people that have been there forever in a respectful way, people that were interested in the neighborhood. There's this tension in gentrification, as we know, where neighborhoods want to maintain their integrity, but also want economic growth and development. But obviously, economic growth and development also changes the character of neighborhoods in ways that locals don't always like. So, it's a hard thing to thread that needle, but I did my best to do it in the time. And looking back, I think they've held up.
They're impressive. I mean, they were what, 13 years ago?
Yeah,
And like
that's
even
right.
today, I'm like, this is an impressive video.
Yep.
You've got thousands on thousands of views. Like, how would you push that video out to get that many views?
Well, I mean, I had a YouTube channel. I mean, when it came to social media beyond, I mean, I guess it was Facebook at the time. I certainly put it on Facebook. But the big thing for me was the big initial push was I would send them to Prince of Petworth.
Right.
And because they were quirky, interesting, unique, and authentic, you know, they put them up, every one. So whenever the launch date would go, I'd send those out, and then, you know, the next morning I had 2,700 views and feel
Right.
like I'm top of the world. And you know, from that I get a couple calls. Everybody I ever sold a house to in those neighborhoods, oh, that's cool, that's great, I saw you, and you know, that felt good. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, the little bit that I looked at it of that, I like it definitely gives off that kind of authentic neighborhood vibe.
Mhm.
It's not showy, it's or salesy,
Yeah.
which is a lot of stuff now. Like the
Yeah.
media, and I guess there's some people that are probably doing similar things like this, but it does take a lot of editorial time. You're doing kind of man on the street
Tremendous.
stuff too.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
there's a lot of stuff to sift through.
it's just super important. I mean, people look at not only what they're being shown, but they interpret the lens that they're being shown that thing through. So rather than, I mean, you know, I think it's pretty clear what I'm doing. I mean, the first thing is, hi, I'm Phil Ruggiero with Long and Foster Real Estate, and we, you know, cut into it. But, you know, there's a lightheartedness to it that, you know, hopefully gets people to think, oh, all right, well, I'm not being sold, right? Like you said.
Mhm.
And it gets them to open up their mind a little bit and be a little bit more willing to kind of see some new perspectives. So it was great. I had fun making it. And the people that I were working with at the time really were very interested in that. I got a number of new developer clients who were younger guys that were like, I saw that video. Would you do something in Brookland if I sell a house? Absolutely. All
Sure.
I got to do is do a video. Yeah, sure. No problem. So I did that a bunch, and it was a good run, but I became so focused on making sure the product was perfect that it got a little distracting between, you know, editing a video for sociological content and accuracy and authenticity and trying
Yeah.
to sell condos. You know, it got a little bit rough, but I did continue with the real estate, you know, tours of, you know, I was doing them at that time, 2008, you know, the wide angle view, walking through, putting it on the countertop, making it look like I'm walking past the
Right.
camera, picking up the camera, going to the next room. I mean, all that stuff. But it was fun.
It's good. And I know the neighborhood videos have a long shelf life. And I guess with the exception of which firm you're working for, I mean, you could repurpose those and use them in today's time.
For sure.
Yeah. Have you thought about that?
Absolutely. It's just a bandwidth question. I mean,
Right.
the product, I'm confident in my voice and my ability to kind of see where people are. And I mean, I used the phrase before, thread the needle, but it's just the authenticity thing is not just my authenticity. I want people to see that it's a representation of their home. So to do that, it's not, I don't know if you have noticed this, but like the average realtor neighborhood photo is out the window on Tuesday afternoon, photograph of the empty, you know, new restaurant that opened up. You're not in the restaurant. You're not talking to anybody. There's no people in it. People are what sell houses, right? Neighborhoods. People decide on a neighborhood first before
Right.
they decide on the house. So, and certainly in some of the gentrifying neighborhoods I was working in, you know, there's a lot of questions about what is this place? Well, here is this place. Here are the people that actually live there, not just the affluent people who are moving in, but these are your neighbors, right? In the Shaw video, I talked to the mailman, right? You know,
He was great.
yeah, he's awesome.
I like that
Yep.
one.
And then another time, like a year later, I was doing a neighborhood video. I'm in a house video, and he walked by. I'm like, Al, get in here.
That's the one.
I'm
yeah.
Al the mailman. And
It's
I'm
like 636Q. This could be your house.
Exactly.
Don't use mail or don't use email. Send mail.
Yeah, exactly.
Use a stamp. It was good.
Yeah. But I mean, just like that's like that for me, when he walked by, I was like, this is it, right? Because everybody knows Al. You know, Al's on the street. Al can be your mailman.
Right.
You know, trying to sell the neighborhood for what it is. You know, not for what someone in New York thinks they're looking for when they, you know, I mean, you know, this is a great city, and there's tons of diversity, tons of history to it. And I think that we as realtors will do our best for our clients, whether they're recent homeowners, longtime homeowners, if we take the time to learn about the city and learn about the communities we're serving, and accurately reflect them. I think that's an important part.
We're with Phil Ruggiero from England Volkers here in Washington, D.C. So let's talk about Greenline Real Estate. When did Greenline Real Estate end? When was, because you're with England Volkers now.
Yep.
Tell us about this process, what happened
the transition
there.
and
Yeah.
how it happened. Yep. Well, so we had awesome run at Greenline Real Estate. Ended up being 11 years.
Mhm.
And maybe after 3 or 4 years, we kind of got to what ended up being our static point of maybe about 20 real estate agents licensed through us. At any given point, probably about 12 or 13 of those were full-time. And we had a great culture, awesome experience, but recruiting is tough, right? And for any brokerage. And that's certainly a part, in order to be able to grow, we needed to recruit. We had a good couple of years of positive recruiting, kind of like 16, 17, 18. And with that, our lease was up. So we made a decision to move down to 14th Street to fight with y'all for the real estate corridor. And we had a great run there, but then we opened up in, just before the pandemic with a kick-ass office that I designed and built. It's amazing, but nobody was there for for 2.5 years.
Forgot about that whole pandemic thing with offices.
Yeah, but I mean, I was so proud of it, so pumped. I mean, designed the place. It was amazing. And I'd be the only one in there for a day and a half, 3 days, and just be like, come on, like really. So it got tough to kind of keep it going. And we've always been cash flow positive, but there was the growth upside was really not there. And we started looking around for other firms or other options, whether or not Tom and I would make moves as individual agents somewhere and try to take our people. And we had been approached early on by Engel and Volkers, who I think was trying to get into this market for a long time. And I was impressed with them, but wasn't feeling it at the time. We wanted to grow our own business. And we reached back out to the folks that we talked to there, and we were really, really, really blessed to be able to get hooked up with the existing licensed partner, Rick Foster, and now Travis Gray in Annapolis. They have a successful office, Engel and Volkers franchise there that they've had now for the last 4 years. And Tom and I are awesome real estate agents, great builders of culture, but office manager, every day-to-day stuff. It's very tedious, especially when there's not tons of production on it. So we really saw the benefit of affiliating with an established group, which we learned over time were good people, awesome systems, very detail-oriented, growth-focused, and we really felt a kinship with them and their business model. And so we ended up joining up with them after some time convincing, like how do I pronounce the name? Where does it come from? How is this going to work in the city? And really kind of what did it for us was in March of this year, we got invited to their annual conference, which this year was in Miami, the Fontainebleau, and met the president and CEO, tons of people from all over the country, and just really impressed with the power of the brand, and particularly their networking all over the world. That was really apparent to us. I mean, they brag all the time that they have a better network than other brands that you might be associated with.
But maybe familiar with.
Yeah, and whether that's, I'm confident it'll play out. But I mean, it was clear to us that was everyone was saying this is just a big difference for us, because we've been able to now immediately as colleagues, seek a much wider audience, and we had a very narrow audience. We had great focus in Petworth and places where we had sold places, but the outreach was tough. So we joined. We decided we're going to join with these folks. They've got an existing back office, great people, awesome culture, and have been super supportive of us doing what we're best at, which is selling real estate and fostering the culture. So we're pumped about it. It's cool to now go from being a small office to now part of a 3-office individual enterprise that's some part of a 1,100 office worldwide thing. It's just totally different for me. Just the concept that I can talk to people about real estate in Milan and Spain, which I'm doing just this past week, is dope. I'm loving it.
That's great.
It's fun. I'm enjoying it.
Just curious, so are you still an owner of because I know at Sotheby's, yes, we have the right to franchise out, or we have the licenses and whatnot, and we have owners at the company.
Yep.
So are you an owner of your office and?
Yes, yeah. So some of the terminology is slightly different with Engel and Volkers, Engel and Volkers, the German pronunciation. I'm a licensed partner, which means the franchisor.
Okay.
Tom Spear is a licensed partner as well. Rick Foster and Travis Gray are for the other offices as well. And I'm a real estate advisor now, not a real estate agent, which is cool because it makes me seem more like I'm being valued for my expertise and perspective than my sales competency.
Is that everybody in the company? Like
Yeah,
if
so-
you're not an agent, you're an advisor.
So everybody in all the agents are advisors. Yep. So I'm a real estate advisor with Engel and Volkers, Washington D.C., and a licensed partner.
Mhm.
So that it took a little bit of time to kind of get used to saying that, but it just in a cocktail party, it's so much more compelling because it's a different look. And I'm much happier to be an advisor than simply someone who's the salesman type of thing. So, but yes, so I have an ownership interest across our organization, which is our local franchise, which is currently 3 shops. That's the other thing. We don't call them offices; we call them shops. They focus on the retail presence, so street front, exposés and real estate pointed toward the street, almost like a Fendi, Gucci type of feel where people see something and want to come in. That's a big part of the brand and the brokerage worldwide, and something that I've always been more aligned toward that. Rather than having the second floor office, it has a great conference room. I want to be where people can see us, and I want to have a sign that says advisor on duty, and it's cool. But so I have an ownership interest across all the shops, but my focus I work out of DC, and that's where I'm helping to try to lead this team toward growth and expansion.
Where's your current office? Like, what's the address?
It's 2216 14th Street Northwest. We're just south of Florida on 14th, right near the new Tate Bakery. An easy walk to all the settlement companies and other offices for dropping off EMD checks and things like that. And in 14th Street, big real estate corridors is now including our area now. Logan Title's just north of us as well, so
Right.
we got the bookend on that.
Are you part of the managing of everyday operations there, or how are you setting up the office?
So right now, yes, for sure. But I think on an ongoing basis, I'll be able to focus more on just growing my own real estate business, growing a team over time. I've always only ever worked by myself, for myself. I had an assistant for 6 months, 8 years ago. Just hired one a couple weeks ago. Now trying to transition forward. But I'm going to be able to focus on that. I love my office. I love my people. And I'm always going to be a mentor, a helper, sit with them and grow the team and be probably primarily responsible for culture and training and stuff like that. I've got a lot of experience in a lot of different areas. So, but day-to-day operations are run by the brokerage stuff by my business partner Tom Spear. And
Does Tom sell it all?
Tom does.
He does sell too?
Yeah, Tom sells. Yep. And Tom has always, and I have always. And where our volume has always been, that's never been a problem, never been a conflict. People call him late at night, but at the same point, it's hard to focus on all things, right? Because you're not focusing.
Yeah.
So we're really looking forward to the assistance of Rick and the team that he's brought, to our brokerage. And just the culture in those shops. Culture is, an odd thing to talk about, but let's rephrase that as unity, assistance, people helping each other out. Everybody shows to the Brokers Open. There's a lot of care. People are careful and they care, and that really means a lot to me. Ethics is super important. These are good people, hardworking, and I love the team I'm associated with now.
How many agents do you guys have right now?
Right now, we're at, I think, pretty steady. We're at 20 out of our current office. Like, same thing, about like 14 of them are full time. Forgive me on the agent count in the other shops, but I believe that there's about 45 amongst the other 2 shops that we're with, and they're doing a great job recruiting there and highlighting the value of the brand in those markets too. Annapolis is a unique market that I'm just starting to learn, but it's fun. I'm going down to office.
It's interesting.
There. It really is. It really is. And I love being able to kind of go down and get a $9 lunch in Annapolis, rather than an appetizer. So
a $9 drink.
Yeah, exactly. So that stuff's fun.
You've done new condo sales, resales. You've got a very long career. Do you have any idea how many transactions you've dealt with in your lifetime?
Forgive me for not pulling that up.
It's a tough stat to really think about. But
no, I
many hundreds.
Well, over 500 for me.
Okay.
And then when I was with Gerard and Urban Land, my MLS ID wasn't attached on any of those, but we sold, I would say maybe 300, maybe. So a lot.
So how do you manage the database over these years? Are you like, what's your top tech tool, CRM platform? How do you keep track of all the people that you've dealt with over the years?
So right now they're all in my new England Volker CRM, but I haven't yet started turning that out in terms of focused communications. As you can tell, right? So my sales volume for years has been between like 17 and 25 million. I've never touched 30 million once for myself, because as a single proprietor selling $650,000 to $700,000 houses, that's more transactions than I ever felt comfortable with. And I didn't decide to grow my brand to try to get more and more business. I'm a big believer in quality of life. I'm a family guy. I love my kids, my family, my hobbies, my time. I do this 7 days a week, 75% of the time, meaning that every day I'm working 75%, 7 days a week. So it's so I'm looking forward to reaching out now with another team member. I'm hoping to build a couple more that can help me with the showings and stuff. Anytime I call 10 people, I get 3 people that are interested in talking and moving something forward. So it's really, I've got a lot more business development that'll come after I send 3 emails, and I have a little more bandwidth as far as showing capacity and stuff like that.
I think I read somewhere that you were really big into the buyer seminars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you don't like to work with buyers. So it's interesting that you're doing the buyer seminars, but the bulk of your business is listings. Can you share like the reason why? Are you passing the deals off to other team members in the office?
So I like working with buyers, absolutely. It's just that my focus has been on the other. That was a brokerage thing. I didn't pick up one buyer lead from any of our over 100 buyer seminars, because I was running them, leading them, teaching them, advertising them for the benefit of the agents. And the way that we did that was that we would feature 3 agents. You're going to talk about the market in 2018. You're going to talk about how to find a house, and you're going to talk about how to negotiate it. People come up and talk. We have a lender and do that. And I would be the MC and coordinate that. So I didn't take any of the leads from any of the buyer workshops and seminars, but I've done that 100 times. I've essentially led almost, most of those, if not, well, definitely most of them, not all of them. But that was, we've always viewed that as a business generation tool for our agents, but really as a community service thing, right? I mean, when you see a room filled with 25 people that've got their notepads out about how can I buy a house, it's meaningful. I mean, that means something to those people. And we would sell, the average, we'd have like 20 to 25 people show, and we'd sell 2 to 4 homes within 6 months out of each of those workshops, which is, always great. So I think I counted 8 months ago, we had sold, 210 plus homes off of those workshops.
That's impressive.
That's really
which
good.
is a lot.
Yeah.
Of people that before they walked in were all saying, "Can I buy it?" So to the extent of like community service, I mean that warms my heart. But I mean that was a big part of it, and that helped us keep our head above, the point of being able to say, no, we're community based, we're focused, and we did them all the time.
How would you advertise those?
Yeah.
On real estate blogs, we did postcards that had the date that everybody had at every one of their open houses. Oh, you're interested? Oh, you're a new buyer? Here, take this. You can come to the next one. Every agent, knew about it. They all advertise individually. We usually get 40 of them sign up, and 20 or so would show.
That was my next question. So there was an RSVP. There's something that's
Yep.
trying to track the data before they even come through.
Yep. I mean,
Okay.
we've got all that. Now we're figuring how to move that forward.
What do you think about the market right now in DC? It's extremely low inventory market pretty much across the board. What do you think about dealing with both sellers and buyers right now? And what do you think about the rest of the market for this year? Do you have any predictions for us?
Yeah, man, I know everything.
Good.
Good. Next question.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
I know it all.
Done. Yeah. So I mean, I think that what we're seeing, right, is this the order of supply and demand is the same as it was 3 years ago, in that there are, relatively speaking, they're in balance. It's just there's a lot less demand, and because sellers had so much equity built up so quick that they're just waiting for what they determine to be the better market. Now, granted, it's a better market than when they bought. They have equity, but just this concept of nobody wants to be the first one to sell, right? People like to merge toward the middle and the bell curve. So I think it's a psychology issue. I don't think it's an economics issue at this point. Obviously payments are higher, but people are still buying.
Right.
And even though payments, the average payments are probably, a third higher, there's not a third less transactions. There's 20% less transactions. So it's clearly a much more psychological thing than anything else. I think that the higher interest rates are baked in at this point. People expect that. They understand that the shock's gone. So I would expect that the next months, when we're now more than a year past a non-crash, that people are going to start looking back and be like, well, I guess, if I do want to sell, now's the right time. And I think that's all that really is needed. Just a quick 10, 15% more pinch of inventory to get buyers to feel comfortable, like, all right, there are options out there. I don't think it's going to take much to turn to a more healthy sales volume. I view real estate market in terms of the number of transactions more than the pace of appreciation or otherwise, because things will appreciate and things will depreciate depending on the market. But how many transactions is really what I think we should be looking at, and that's been stifled for sure. But I don't think it's going to take much. I think interest rates are going to moderate somewhat by the end of the year, enough to get people thinking that they're coming down. I'm not going to give you a number because I don't want to be wrong, but I think it'll come down a little bit, not much. And I think that's probably, I don't think it needs to come down too much to get people to say, all right, now's my opportunity. Because I just was looking at the bar graph for the last year, the lines for the last year and the interest rates, and they've remained high, and even now they're still a measure higher than they were 4 months ago. If you're looking at where the trajectory is pointing, but all that needs to do is edge off the top. People see over the next valley and then jump back in with listings. That's what we need. We need listings.
We need listings. No doubt.
Someone told me if the rates drop below 5, at whatever point in the future, the market will go crazy again, because sellers will jump on getting their house on the market, go into the next house.
Yeah.
And I told my neighbors were just asking me some general thoughts about what I think they're going to do. And I said, I think 5 is the magic number, right? Mm-hmm. If we get to 5, people will say, all right, well, that's an interest rate I'll take now, right? Anybody would take it now, but people aren't going to be waiting for 4.5 once we get to 5, because that's already a magnitude better than where we are. I don't think we're going to be there right away, but I think if we're in the 5s, that's a big, all the Inman, everyone's going to put that 5.9, the second that comes out, and that's going to throw another couple 100,000 people in the market, I think, just the second that happens.
Yeah, I think a lot of savvy buyers know that. We were with a buyer on Tuesday. He's going to be buying in at 6.5%, probably looking to an interest-only loan. But he does know if and when the rates get into the 5s or just whatever it is, he thinks prices are going to go through the roof. And then you're competing with other people. It's like, buy at the price now, refi in 2 to 3 years down the road. So it's like having that educational conversation with your buyers. Let's wait for the rates to drop to 5%.
Yeah. And the whole concept of, there's always conflicting data points, right? And that's a big part about how I talk about the market when I talk with people. I don't, in 2001, agents were saying the market is great, it's awesome, it's hot, right? But for who? For half of the for sellers,
hot market,
right? But you need a buyer for every seller. So it's like, just as hot as it is for a seller, it sucks for a buyer. So like, wouldn't it be great if it was just okay for everybody, and then you kind of move on from there? So I just think that you have to give 2 points of view. Give any market, you got to give something positive about it. Like, in other words, real estate values are going up, but that's a challenge for buyers. You have to always say one and the other, because that's the market. It's not all good, it's not all bad, right? If values are coming down, that's an opportunity for buyers. If values are going up, it's time for a seller to think about it. There's a challenge and an opportunity in any circumstance, depending on your perspective. And I think you have to broaden it out towards, how do I get a perspective, right? We have bicameral vision. Sorry for touching the mic. You have one eye, you can't judge distance. You get 2 of them, you can tell where something is. You have to take a different perspective to kind of understand and be able to locate yourself.
You've been doing this for a long time, working with a lot of developers. Over the course of 20 plus years, have you acquired any developments for yourself, rental properties? Can you kind of walk us through that?
So I have, but it hasn't been a focus of mine. I think that the phrase amongst real estate investors is doors, right? How many doors do you have? I've got the first place I bought when I moved to DC was when in a new construction place that my uncle and I were selling. and I bought the last 2-bedroom there and did well with it. Then I bought another pre-construction in Columbia Heights that I still own to this day, that I rent out. It's for rent right now, actually. And I lived in it for a while. We're going to keep that forever and keep that going. And then I bought another pre-construction sale in 2005, a 1-bedroom on Sherman Avenue that I never lived in, and I've rented all the way through. It's oddly still only like $15,000 more than I bought it for, but it's been a good investment. I like parking spots as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've got one condo garage parking spot that is my happiest investment. I paid like $12,000 for it. I can.
Where's
rent
that
it.
at?
It's on Georgia Avenue in the
Okay.
back of a condo that I was selling, 3-unit building with 2 spots. The last one I said, I'll buy it.
Easy overhead with that.
Dude, it's great. No TOPA rights, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like no basic business license for, the housing side of it.
So 12,000. Like, how much are you getting rent for the parking?
I was getting $175 for a long time,
That's
but
good.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
$225 each, right?
Really good.
Yeah, you do that 10
That's a
times.
return on that is unbelievable.
Exactly. So don't everybody go scoop them up, because I do. I once a week I always just look on, but you got to look for the condo fees, right? Because there's always
Sure,
these big co-op buildings have double parking spot. It's got $400.
There's one on the market now. I can't remember if it's at the Claridge House or Town Terrace. It's like 60,000, but you see the photo, and I'm like, I'm not sure you can get a sedan in there, because like there's a bulkhead or something underneath there. But it's been on the market forever.
Yep. And then my family, we have a piece of land in Rhode Island that we have a cell phone tower on that spits off some income from that. But I'm looking to get into it in the next couple of years. I like design, so probably something that I can design, build, and do that.
You're obviously very well established here in DC. You've been here for your entire professional career. What does DC mean to you, and what do you think about DC? What do you sell about DC? What do you love about DC?
Great question. There's a lot of stuff about it. It's an international city, and certainly with my affiliation now with Engel and Volkers, that's a big draw and interest to me. I speak Spanish fluently, Italian. I'm trying to learn, German, French, Hungarian, a couple other ones. My wife's Hungarian, and I love the concept of being able to fish a broader pool. And there's so many people from all over the world coming to DC. Not only plenty of people, grew up here and stay, but there's a lot of diversity. There's just tons of diversity in the city, and I think that's where I want to be. I want to be in a place where neighborhoods are dynamic, people are dynamic, people have to learn about each other in order to get along. You have the mailman living next to someone at the World Bank. I mean, you don't get that in the average U.S. city or parts of the world, and that part is super interesting to me. I like to be able to talk to the mailman and talk to the person in the World Bank and give them both, good advice and move on. I mean, the best part about the neighborhood for both of those people is the other people, in my opinion. And that's a big part about what I love about the city, that people come to it. People tend to stay. You probably noticed that, right? Even from other parts of the world, but they're here for a short stint at the IMF, and I'm gonna get a place because I like it. The city's low, right? Low skyscrapers, a lot of green space. There's just a tremendous amount of interest, and people who come here tend to stay. We live in Barnaby Woods, DC, Chevy Chase, right near Rock Creek Park. My wife loves Rock Creek Park. We go walk every day. How could I possibly live in the capital city and be that close? There's just so much unique to it, and I can drive to my office on 14th Street in 12 minutes, and that's big. I mean, there's just so much to enjoy about it. So I love it.
I think Barnaby Woods, isn't there? My recollection of there is it's where the old blocks from the Capitol. There's like a pile of blocks from the Capitol from way back when.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
there.
Yep, there is. Yep. I haven't been there. I haven't been there in a bit. Yeah. So when they did the first Capitol, they had all these beautiful carved stones that they had to get rid of when they were doing the new one. So they threw them in a big pile in the middle of the woods, and now it's kind of a cool archaeological site.
It's cool.
Moss all over it.
Okay.
It's pretty neat.
All right.
We'll take you up there, Max.
I'll check it out. I'll be up there.
Throughout this course of the show, you've mentioned a lot of you being a mentor to a lot of the younger agents. A lot we've had on the show, from the Greg Schneiders to the Yannis of the world. Who was your mentor growing up?
Well, my dad was involved in real estate since the 70s. He was a broker for Century 21 in Rhode Island. which is where I'm from, and he had his yellow jacket, Century 21 jacket. I don't think he sold many houses, but he had the franchise in a rural part of town, and he did environmental construction and stuff like that. My dad has always been exclusively involved in real estate, buying houses in Rhode Island, renovating them, and he had his peak in the late 80s when he had about 13 triple deckers, we call them, in Providence, and they were mostly filled with Johnson and Wales college students, so toga parties and ragers all the time, and we lived in one of them in the middle, overlooking all the buildings. So when someone was throwing a party, we could say, "We got to get down there, Phil. Let's go. Knock this thing. Tell these people they got to go home." So trashed.
How old are you at this time?
6 to up. Yeah. I definitely remember like walking through and seeing kegs and sticky floors. Man, I remember sticky floors forever. But trash day on Thursdays, we'd have to go around and kick the rats out of the trash cans and take all the trash cans out for all these buildings. So I have a pretty deep, grassroots appreciation for what it takes to unclog a toilet and just real basic real estate stuff. So Pops is a great mentor. Taught me a lot about what I know about the real estate. He's not a sales guy, but when it comes to how to open a lock or not kick in a door,
right.
My dad's who you want to talk to. My dad, one time when somebody wasn't paying the rent, just went and removed all the exterior doors to their unit. College students, essentially, in other words, no, you can stay. There's just no doors.
No doors.
I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can get away with
A
it.
different time.
Work, like,
A different time in Rhode Island, and the college students weren't so pleased, but they moved out.
So you were the co-founder of your own real estate company, and now you're a license owner at Engel and Volkers. What do you look for when you're recruiting agents? You're trying to build a team. You're trying to build a brokerage. Tell us about how you do that, what you're looking for.
Well, this is a people business, and competency and sales volume. Sales volume implies competency, but it's not always the same thing, right? There's plenty of people that sell tons of houses who I don't particularly like being around, and that's no disrespect. But well, it is disrespect. But quality people who are ethically focused and feel a commitment to their clients, but also their communities is important. Diversity is also really important for us. It always has been. We had Green Line Real Estate. There's no award for it, but we certainly were one of the most diverse real estate brokerages in the city. We had agents speaking 12 languages out of 20 agents, and that's really an important part of it. And I studied sociology in college. It's just always been a real focus for me about relative diversity, and it's something that I think as real estate brokerages living in a city that's 50% Black and was much higher percentages earlier, I think you have to cast a wide net. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a white guy, and my business partner is a white guy, and that's fine. But you can't just act like we don't have any responsibility to offer opportunity, and simply saying, oh, anybody can walk through the door. I'll let anybody. And you have to recruit. You have to be active in that stuff. I don't understand how you could have a brokerage of 100 plus agents and have, 3 Black agents in it. That just doesn't make as much sense to me. I'm not saying it's intentional, but there's certainly no intentional attempt to have broader representation. So I think agents should look like the communities they serve. It's not only a matter of how people look, but if they don't even look like the communities they serve, it's going to be a hard thing to try to convince the average consumer that they have their best interest in mind. So I think in recruiting, diversity is something that has to be actively pursued and not just presumed as I'm a progressive person. You have to offer opportunity and exposure and access. And I'm not the gatekeeper of opportunity and access, but when I can make a hire, I'm looking for people that are ethical, have experience, know what they're doing, can learn things, coachable, and who represent a different perspective than I have. I learn from people that are not like me. And I think we all do, right? So the more that you can learn from people that aren't like you, the better perspective you're going to have. Remember this, like the two-eye approach. If you only see through one lens, you're going to miss things. So that's a big part about the brokerage that I have built and the brokerage that I'm looking to build going forward. I think it's just really important.
Smart. I like it. Okay.
It was good.
Very
Powerful.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Thanks, dudes.
All right. Brent's going to hit you with some rapid fire questions.
Sounds good.
We ready?
I'm ready, man. Hit me.
So you mentioned you're Italian a few times here on the show. What's your favorite Italian restaurant in DC or the DMV?
Well, my go-to is Two Amy's, and that's not a contest or it's just that I've always gone there. When I have a big settlement, I want to eat there.
What do you get there? I know what they serve, but
always anchovies, bread and butter. I mean, just that's
really
number
well.
one.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep, and they got great little appetizers, and I usually get the calabrese pizza. I like anchovies. It's the whole Sicilian thing where I went to Sicily last summer. It's big. That place, that's authentic, right? It feels real, right? You could helicopter that to Naples, and well, people would be dressed a little different, but it's good food.
I think they need a pizza cutter there, right? Isn't that the place that they
So
don't cut the pizza?
You have to ask, right?
Right.
I mean, they always bring it back, full, and then you say,
Right.
"Can you send it back?" And they roll their eyes and they come back. So now I always say, "Calabrese cut, please." Oh, no problem.
Just bring your own cutter.
Why would they roll their eyes?
Well,
Like, you're not supposed to cut your own
in
pizza?
fairness, it's not that they roll. It's just kind of like, all right, I'll go back to the kitchen. But I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't cut it.
Do they expect you just like to fold it like a sandwich and eat it?
Roll it up like a burrito. I don't really.
Really?
I don't
That's
know.
I don't know. I haven't been there in a while.
I mean,
but
but,
you're
it's good.
But like the knife and fork thing doesn't work with that.
It reminded me of that place. I definitely have to go there again soon. I haven't
It's a
been there in
great
a while.
one.
What's your go-to vacation spot?
Italy. Sorry for not being too.
We're at in Italy.
I like going new places all the time. I have family in just outside Florence, and a client that owns a past client that owns a hotel on Capri's, where we tend to stay there.
Nice.
That's a good one. But last summer we went to Sicily for 3 weeks, and Sicily is just amazing. I strongly recommend it. Much cheaper than mainland, much more seafood. Awesome people.
Isn't Sicily where they have like the Godfather restaurant where the car blew up?
I believe so. I didn't go to it.
Yeah.
I did go to Palermo for 1.5 days. I'd spend weeks in Palermo. It's awesome.
It's White Lotus Part 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a TV theme here.
Yep.
I know you like cars. What is your all-time favorite car? Whether you have it or you've had it or you want to have it.
I don't know. All-time favorite might be a little hard to say, but the one that's on my mood board, my motivational board, would be a new 911 GT3 Touring with moonstone, which is like a white pinkish color, and gold wheels.
What's the interior color here?
I'm thinking brown and Pasha. Make it look a little Moonlander 60s. The gold and the light moon color. Moonstone was a color they had in 1979 and 1980, which is a white, but you look at it and it looks a little pink. I don't know. For some reason that does it for me. My daughter, who's with me here today, Ava, her middle name is Luna. So the moon is.
Well, it's only
is wrong.
fitting. You've got to get this car now.
Yep.
But wait, Porsche, you're Italian.
Well, Italian cars are not reliable. So
All right, there we go.
No, it's the
German Precision. I'm with
what's the
Engel and
car?
Volkers now, so
That's
German
right.
Precision and design
Okay.
are big.
Alfa Romeo.
Alfa Romeos are great. Yeah, I would have loved the Quadrifoglio,
Yeah.
but electrical problems. I've seen those at the track, and they constantly are getting pulled in early.
They're not going to be our sponsor now. Thanks a lot. Electrical problems.
Who would play you in a movie?
I'm going to go with Leonardo DiCaprio. Just
Impressive.
because similar last names, squinty eyes. My mom said I always looked like a cross between him and Brad Pitt.
Okay.
My mom loves me.
Yes.
It wasn't. I don't know. It's accurate, but in her mind, that was big.
I like Leonardo a lot. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's like, I guess our version of George Clooney, who's now married and a little bit older, but he's like the single bachelor, like living the life. Cool
Yeah,
guy.
He doesn't. He's got it just like he wants it.
Last question here. What are you binge watching?
Most recently, I was watching The Diplomat on Netflix, which is an interesting show. My wife's she works for international aid organizations, and I'm always trying to learn a little bit more about her lifestyle. It's interesting. This diplomat that goes over to England and it has it's cool because you get to see the social aspect. When the camera's off and the door closes, what these people are, what they're talking about. Obviously, it's just a show, but it's interesting to see these politicians as real people. And sometimes I watch that, and then in the mornings on Saturdays with my daughter Alma and Ava, we watch what's the name of the show we watch that you like to see with Zendaya? Anyway, Disney show with Zendaya. We're big into Zendaya at the house.
Zendaya.
I'm thinking of the show in my mind too, but I can't remember the name either.
We're still stuck on Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Right on.
All right.
So that's all the questions I have, Max.
Phil
Anything from you?
DiRuggiero, great job, man. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
coming
Phil.
out.
Thanks for
Really
having me.
appreciate it.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
Awesome.
guys.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.